Okay, we're called to order Architectural Board of Review for April 17th. We can have our roll call, please.
Yes, thank you. I'll go ahead and take roll call. We have Chair Moore.
Here.
Vice Chair Six is absent. Board Member Anderson.
Here.
Board Member Black.
Here.
Board Member Noon.
Here.
And Board Member Whalen.
Here.
Okay, we have a quorum. Thank you.
Okay, we can move on to general business and public comment. Do we have anybody who would like to speak?
Yes, thank you, Chair Moore and board members. So I'll go ahead and start with in-person public comment. So if there's anyone wishing to speak on general public comment, please fill out a speaker slip by the back. But at this time, I don't have any requests to speak. So I'll move to virtual public comment. At this time, I don't see anyone joining or wishing to speak. And we did not receive any written correspondence, so I'll turn it over back to you.
Okay, we can move on to approval of the minutes for April 3rd. Please.
Thank you, Chair Moore. We had an advisory item. Well, that was a presentation for decorum. Item 2, 11 Anna Kappa. Received final approval. Number 3, 1315 Atosh Street. Received project design approval with the following comments. And meeting was adjourned.
I move we accept the minutes.
Second. Second by Mr. Black. Any discussion? No? Let's take a vote.
All right, we have Chair Moore,
Yes.
Board Member Anderson.
Yes.
Board Member Black.
Yes.
Board Member Noon.
Yes.
And Board Member Whalen.
Yes.
Okay, motion passes.
Okay, any announcements, etc.?
Brief announcement. Today's consent calendar was not listed on the agenda to be ratified, so we'll just have to do that at the next full board hearing. So today's items had 2, but we'll just read those out at the next full board ABR meeting.
Okay. Any future agenda items from board members or anything like that? No? Okay. Subcommittee reports? No meetings lately? No? Okay. Wow, that was fast. I think we can jump into it.
We need to wait, right?
That was, is it 10 or 15 minutes?
Oh, it's 15. We're good. We
Okay,
can start.
great. Well, if
We're
The
slowly
app-
making our way in.
yeah.
You're going to be up.
All right, this is item number 1. It's 501 Ninos Drive. And this is the Dwight Murphy Field renovation project, including conversion of existing grass soccer field to a multi-sport synthetic turf field, new natural turf baseball field, informal activity area, inclusive playground, fitness area, family picnic area, trash enclosure, and restroom. The project will include demolition of existing restroom, playground, and ball fields and fitness areas. Other amenities include accessible pathways, bus loading zone, fencing, and lighting. On-site vehicular parking would increase to 159 spaces. Perimeter parking would increase to 93 spaces. A total of 37 trees would be removed and 125 new trees will be planted. A portion of Sycamore Creek would be restored. And this project includes improvements to vehicular circulation by preventing traffic from entering Park Road from Cayo Puerto Vallarta, and received Planning Commission approval on August 19th of 2021. This is an in-progress review focused on the play structure and the restroom building. Only a partial set of plans is provided. No appealable action or decision will be made at this hearing. We last saw this August 22nd of last year.
So staff just wants to make some brief comments. It is specifically focused on that playhouse structure. So today, we're just only reviewing those components. I know you had a question potentially, Mr. Black. You feel free to ask that one today too, if you would like. So
Thank you. If we could have our motion from the
Sure.
last meeting. In the meantime, if you could introduce yourselves.
Yes, Chair Moore, members of the commission, my name is Justin Van Mullum. I'm with the Parks and Recreation Department, and we have been working on this project since 2018. We're happy to be where we are. We have project design approval from your board, but with some comments to come back. So we've chosen to just come and focus on these two important structures, our play structure and our restroom building. But just a little bit of background.
Before we jump into that, go ahead and introduce yourself. We need to familiarize ourselves with the motion before you jump into your
Okay, sorry.
presentation. Yeah.
All right, thank you. My name is Elijah Pierce. I'm with RRM Design Group.
Okay, thank you. And it's been a while, so if the board could look at that motion, we can get up to speed. Okay. Is this all coming back to us?
There were also some individual comments as well at the very end.
Oh, okay. All right. Okay. Go ahead.
Hi. Mr. Chair, as I was saying, so we have been on this project since 2018. It is really a project that was designed by the community. We've got 4 community workshops, 2 community surveys that had over 800 survey responses, and including this meeting today, 10 public hearings. We've gone to City Council to review the master plan. We've been to Planning Commission and received approval from them. So we're really happy to be where we are today, our in-progress meeting. And just to introduce some of the other members of our team, we have Marissa Peltier, our playground designer, and and we have our partner, our nonprofit partner in the audience, Victoria Strong from the Gwendolyn Strong Foundation, who is our guiding force for our all-inclusive playground. So I'd like to hand this over to our architect to get going.
Great, thank you. As was mentioned, we're really looking for feedback on 2 specific items today, both the tree house play structure and the restroom building. We've just begun getting into construction documents and want to make sure that we are headed down the right path. And if you looking for feedback on these as we keep refining the design construction documents. So just first to orient ourselves, right here is where the tree house play structure is located, towards the corner of the park. The zoo is over here just for orientation. And then we have the restroom building here. But I think first we'll start with the play structure. So the last time we were here, this was the play structure. And the concept behind this is to create a tree house. This is something that children of all abilities are still able to appreciate and enjoy. And so there's a ramping, kind of a spiraling ramp that leads up to the treehouse play structure. And some of the comments were to back down maybe the cartoonish style of it. And so we worked to develop something that still had that whimsy and fun and playfulness, but still had a little bit of a more stylized kind of architecture. So this is where we're landing right now. It's something that has a storybook feel, that this is still very playful and fun, but isn't necessarily a strictly defined architectural style. That this is it's a play structure, not a building. So there's still a lot of fun, colorful elements, but it is what we believe kind of fits more of that storybook feel. One significant element that's changed or been added is the cupola on the top. We designed a space on the roof in our prior design that was a great element to bring in light and a location to incorporate art. We're looking at stained glass, a stained glass feature. But by adding cupola, it gives it a little bit more of a traditional feel, but still can accomplish that. So as you can see, the ramp comes in and spirals up and around to the kind of main floor of the treehouse. And we also have an area at the roots of the tree to play, and there's even a path up through the inside of it. So it's really a unique play structure that I think this is kind of a one of kind. I'm going to walk you through a couple other views of this. This is from the side approach. You can see it coming up and around. You can see there's along the ramp, it's not just a ramp, it's a part of the play structure in and of itself. There's slides and netting to get you up there. So trying to make what couldn't possibly be a utilitarian element actually incorporated into the play of the structure. You can see a view from down below. You can come up and around. And I think this is a nice view of that this is really integrated into the larger playground area. So we've worked with our fabricator to refine the trees a bit more. They were a little diagrammatic before filling them out with the types of leaves and branches. So let me end on here. Moving back to the site plan, also wanted to speak about the restroom building. So the restroom building has changed in two significant ways. One, we moved it over a bit. It used to be about here, adjacent to one of the ramps to get up. But in that location, it presented due to the grades, presented an opportunity to possibly jump to the roof. It wasn't right there, but a little too tempting to be safe. So we moved it closer to the dugout. And that we think actually helped with the circulation, but we also wanted to study the roof. In our previous design, we had a partially tiled roof and then kind of a swooping parapet on part of it. In this design, and I wanted to pass out just the rendering of it for discussion. Thank you. I don't know if we're able to get an overhead.
Do you have this on the PDF as well?
Ooh, so we have the construction documents, but we don't have that rendering. Thank you.
City TV, can we get the overhead camera to point down to? Thank you. So just, I guess, move that to the best of your.
There we go. Excellent. Thank you. So in this location, we've kind of inverted the location of the tile roofs. Previously, the tower element had a parapet, and the body of it was tiled. We did this for a couple reasons. One is we are hoping to meet the city solar guidelines and be able to locate a significant amount of solar panels on these roofs. The other is that in this setup, it is significantly harder to climb up on. We wanted to make sure that we didn't have any low eaves here that could entice anyone to be able to climb up on the roof. This provides still some visible tile, but it kind of limits it. Any tile that we might see is possibly breakable, from a fly ball. So we're using a kind of a crenellated pattern. You might see it. Santa Barbara Junior High is one example we looked at, and then the tower element. So the floor plan and the mass of it has stayed fairly similar. We have added a bench area we thought might be useful for parents waiting their children as they're using the restroom. But the floor plan has not significantly shifted since last time you've seen it.
If I could just speak on kind of some institutional knowledge that we've learned with putting red tile roofs behind home plates. The tile roofs don't typically, they need to be repaired quite a bit. So, and we learned that with the Cabrillo ballpark. So once this building got shifted, we decided that for maintenance purposes, we should really restudy that roof.
Great. All right. So those are really two elements that we're hoping to speak with you today, and look forward to your questions and comments.
Okay, we can open public comment for this item.
Yes, thank you, Chair Moore and board members. So first, we'll start with in-person public comment. If there's anyone in this room wishing to speak on this item, as a reminder, please just fill out one of the speaker slips by the back door and bring it to me. At this time, I do have 4 requests to speak. So I'll go ahead and start with BB Longstreet, followed by Kelly Brett Almerath. So please come up to this podium and you'll have 2 minutes.
Good afternoon. I'm BB Longstreet. I retired from the Parks and Recreation Commission in January after 25 years. So I'm here because this project is dear to my heart, and we need to move it forward. Everyone in the city needs to be behind it to move it forward. Dwight Murphy needs a lot of help. This is an opportunity that doesn't come by very often. I would really like to thank Victoria Strong for championing this and his staff for moving it along. The money has been raised for the playground. The foundation is currently raising money for an endowment. I don't think those of you who deal with a Parks and Recreation budget understand what it means to have an endowment. It means this park can be maintained, this playground. So that's really important, and I'd encourage anybody to donate to the Park Foundation or to the Gwendolyn Strong Foundation. All of us can give a little, and it would help. I look at that tree house, and you think of the accessibility of it. When you start picking it apart, as is your job, I get it, remember that it was designed with the input of parents who have dealt with a lack of accessibility at a playground. Their input is a whole lot more important than any of ours. And so we want to see it designed to fit their needs. Sometimes we may have to give up a little bit of our red tile roof and our aesthetic in this community, but it's a playground and it needs to be proper for children, and it needs to meet the needs of all the children in our community. So move it along, give it your blessing, and let's build this playground.
Okay, thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Kelly Brett Almerath, and I'm wearing a few hats today. I am the mom of 2 typically abled children here in the community, and I am a native Santa Barbaran. I've been here for all of my 52 years, so I understand your role, and I really appreciate how you've kept Santa Barbara beautiful. I'm here today, though, to mostly wear the hat as a member of the board of directors for MOXIE, the Museum of Exploration and Innovation. At MOXIE, we were first initially very excited about just the concept, inclusive play, because our mission is to ignite learning through creativity and experience. So this matched our thoughts, this matched what we believed in. But then when we saw the design, we jumped full force. We were so excited to partner with the Gwendolyn Strong Foundation, not just in helping to get the word out, not just into donating dollars individually as board of directors, but to partner with programming specifically around this tree. The idea that we can bring STEM learning to the park inside of that space is just incredible, to have 2 organizations be able to service typically abled children and children with disabilities all at the same time in such a unique and creative space. As a local Santa Barbaran who's lived here her whole life and played on every playground as a parent and as a child, I encourage you to think of that modality, of the children and the parents who get to participate in this space. As a member of the board of directors at MOXIE, I encourage you to say yes, because that's what tens of thousands of Santa Barbarans did when they wrote checks and had lemonade stands and donated money to this playground. We are so excited to see this happen. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Next, I have Victoria Strong, followed by JJ McCullough.
Hello, nice to see you all again. My name is Victoria Strong, and I'm the executive director of the Gwendolyn Strong Foundation, the nonprofit partner, funding partner for Gwendolyn's Playground. For the last 15 years, our organization has researched the best practices of universal design, and over the last 7 years has actively consulted with experts both locally and internationally in all fields related to inclusive play. This includes neurologists, physical and occupational therapists, child development specialists, psychologists, mental health and wellness doctors, specialists in autism, Down syndrome, hearing and vision loss, medical fragility, disability in general, and aging, as well as teachers and children, lots and lots of children. What you see here has been informed by all of that research and their expert opinions. Everything you see has been carefully chosen to meet a specific need, create a specific experience, or offer specific sensory input. From colors to pathways to textures, all of it serves a very specific purpose. The magical tree was designed to be usable to as many people as possible and provides equitable use, flexibility in use, and intuitive navigation to a diverse range of abilities and needs. The space offers opportunities for accessible and independent play, visually stimulating elements, tactile choices which help build tolerance of sensory input, and physical challenges, all providing valuable childhood experiences that nurture healthy brain and body development. The magical tree has also been designed to encourage multi-generational play and provide access so caregivers can easily provide assistance. We have also focused on integrating people of varying ages and with a variety of abilities into all aspects of fun and action, fostering shared play experiences in all aspects of this space with features that stimulate open-ended social and creative play. We have now successfully raised $6 million from a wide range of community support, from businesses, schools, nonprofits, and everyday citizens, including 3-year-olds. We continue to hold outreach events with these rendering images and are continually met with enthusiastic support. Santa Barbara wants Gwendolyn's Playground to become a reality as soon as possible. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Hi, everyone. I have a lot to say, so I'm going to talk fast. My name is JJ McLeod, and I am here wearing many different hats as well. First, I will say I'm an inclusion and autism specialist certified by the International Board of Continuing Education and Credentialing. I am the proud director of education at our Santa Barbara Zoo, and I am founder of Autism Embrace, a business that certifies hospitality and recreation spaces with neurodiversity in mind. Gwendolyn's Playground has been vetted and planned out so intentionally and with such attention to those with sensory needs. The ramps have interactive sensory features. The cocoon is a space where kids can hide without really hiding from their parents. And there are many areas that focus on quieter or sensory experiences around the tree. This space qualifies as a space for all under the Autism Embrace certification that audits sensory activities and levels. The zoo in 2018 became the first zoo on the West Coast and the second in the nation to be a certified autism center, and it did not only increase the numbers of participants within our programs, the support we received from our community was overwhelming. I can tell you firsthand, parents are driving from San Luis Obispo, Bakersfield, and Thousand Oaks just to be able to come and have an opportunity to sit amongst families that have walked in their shoes. Lastly, I am a mother of 3, one with a disability, and finding creative spaces that meet the need of all of my kids is not represented in this community yet. We have had to break the family up to access what my child needed developmentally and what my other 2 kids needed. This playground will bring siblings, friends, and our entire community together. We need Gwendolyn's Playground so that many parents struggling to find their groove in a world that has not been built for their child know that they have a place to go, so that they know they will not be alone, and more importantly, that their child will not be alone either. They need to know that this community sees and supports them. It's been too long that amazing children like my son have been the add-on, the burden, the not thought about or intentionally planned for, and we get to change that. Please help us change that.
Okay, thank you. Do we have anyone else?
All right, that's all we have for in-person public comment, so I'll move to virtual public comment. So if anyone joining by Zoom wishes to speak on this item, please raise your hand to indicate that you'd like to speak, and I will call on you. At this time, I don't see anyone joining by Zoom that wishes to speak, and we didn't receive any written correspondence, so with that, I'll turn it over back to you.
All right, so we're back to the board for questions. Mr. Whalen, do you have any questions?
Just one small question. Is there an interior access in the magical tree, or is it all access from the ramp?
There is a netting tunnel up through the center. So the idea is that different abilities and different age groups can all access it different ways. What we try to do is that, for instance, the ramp is really fun too. So it's not like, oh, able-bodied people might use this and those with this certain disability might use that. That it's all kind of fun. So there is kind of a central access up through from the second to the top story.
And there's no access from the sort of root area to the next level?
The route is kind of self-contained. It's
Self-contained. All right, that's all, those are my
a root
questions.
cave might.
Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Noon, do you have any questions?
No questions.
Mr. Black?
Thank you. Just for my own benefit, what goes on inside the house structure once you get up there? I'm just curious. Once you get inside it, what happens?
So there's, it's a playhouse. So we have some art features, some different sensory exhibits. Some of it's still under design, but you can think of it as a play structure with different play elements. It's about 240 square feet, so it's actually fairly small. It's not a huge big building. It's a play structure.
I get it. Let me just flip over to the restroom since it's on
Sure.
the agenda. I'm kind of a little bit confused. So this top image is the north elevation, correct?
Correct.
Okay, and then I'm confused in terms of what these are.
These are the two side elevations. So
Yeah, I
let me-
figured that.
Yeah.
Which is which?
So let me pull up the site plan for you.
It's not labeled that way,
Yep.
so.
So if you can see where my
East
hand is.
and west?
The west elevation is
Zoom
the
in there.
elevation.
Could you zoom in on that?
Yeah.
So-
That's where the large double door is, that west elevation.
'Cause I have a similar question, because there's two towers on your elevation, but there's
Yeah.
one tower in your plan.
They, yeah, I see where you're after there. Yes, that, the tower would be solely in this corner. That line on the west elevation, really, that's a flush element right there. Yep.
Okay.
Let me pull up this. Yep. Here we go. That's more updated, if you can see on the screen.
So that tiles, or the tower is beyond. and the-
Tower is beyond,
Got
correct.
it, okay. And then one quick last question. I know there was some discussion at the last meeting last year about the screen trees on the south side, I guess. And so I think there might have been a request to maybe tighten them up, and I was curious as to whether that had been done, and also what species of tree was being used or proposed?
So I,
Sorry, yeah, we're focused on the
Okay.
restrooms and that, so I think they're going to.
when we come to final, we're happy to show.
Got it.
Get into that. yes.
Okay, those are all my questions. Thanks.
Ms. Anderson, any question?
Yes. Well, since we're on this image, can you explain the roof one more time on this? Since both elevations show it undulating, I'm just curious, is it undulating in two directions?
So let me pull out to the plan. So, correct, so the undulations would wrap around the perimeter here, and then this would be the hipped tile portion right here.
Do you have a roof plan?
Not at this time.
Okay. And then can you explain one more time what kind of roofing, if it's not tile?
So it would be a stucco parapet, but then a flat, like a Satillo tile cap on the edge.
Okay, okay,
Yep.
got it.
Yeah, similar to the detail that's on the
Parapet.
junior high building.
Yeah, I'm not familiar, unfortunately.
Back around a corner, it's a,
Okay,
yeah,
okay, cool.
trying to see it.
Okay, that makes more sense. And then if we can go back to the magical tree, could you explain the stained glass you mentioned? What that is and
Yeah.
where it is?
So let me pull up. So actually, I'll go to the old elevation. So you had kind of a little bit of a lopped off roof previous, but in there we had a flat stained glass element that and it was basically kind of like a skylight element. But we, in the new design, that element would be basically right here. You're still seeing up through, but you get more of that whimsical cupola, if you will. So you're still getting light into that space, shining through that stained glass element, but with a more traditional kind of roof shape.
Kind of for reference, the sidewalk is about 4 feet below that top floor's finished floor. That's an 8-foot plate as well. So it's not, it looks like a large building because all of the people show, or most of the people shown are children. And a lot of times it's shown at a child's eye perspective. So it's not at like a 5-foot height. It's more like at a 3-foot height.
Yeah. So you're seeing up into it.
Okay. And then in another image, it looked like there was a railing on one side. There, right there. Okay.
So we have these kind of Juliet balcony items, but one thing worth noting: this is not a climbable tree house. So there are kind of protection screens. How we've detailed the trees and branches, basically, we've set this up so there's no way to start climbing up these trees. That is not the purpose of the tree house, is to climb the trees.
Okay. Okay, I think those are my questions.
Okay. Could we put the motion back up just briefly? Just to- So, I mean, number one, I just want to make sure we're hitting the points on this with our questions and, so the applicant shall provide significant refinement to the treehouse structure to include more whimsical features and a more stylized aesthetic with less cartoonish features and less of an attempt to mimic specific architectural styles. And then number two, the applicant shall provide refinement to the restrooms. Which is a pretty broad comment there. So I guess going back to number one, and if we could switch back over to the plan set. Thanks. So I don't think anyone is disputing the height or the scale of the project. I think the questions that I've heard have to do with more, well, what's driving the shape of the house and why, it's what is driving all that? So what's going on inside that's dictating the kind of the shape and the layout? And I heard a little bit before, but
Yeah. So I'd say the core design features that we want everybody to have a chance to experience a treehouse, and not just any treehouse, a magical one. And when you think about it, think about how hard that actually might be for someone that can't climb a rope ladder. And so trying to build something that allows everyone to experience that. So that was a little bit of the driving force for that. This is something that's elevated. You can, be up high, look down at your friends, that it has a lot of windows and portholes and see-throughs, as you want to be in it, but you also want to be able to peek outside. And then there's also, we want to make it fun. This is not a building. This is a playhouse. This is a play structure with some very intentional and intuitive features. You know where to go in. There's a big pink door. It has some things that nobody has to explain. There's no signage needed. This is a play structure. This is the main entry. Here's where you might look out. And so a little bit also in driving the shape of the structure is that this is not, the whole tree house is not located on a corner on an edge. You have views from all sides, that it is really a circular feature. So the ramp literally spirals around the whole element of the treehouse structure. And so it's not a monofocused. It's not looking out in one direction. It's really has beautiful views and fun views in all directions. So that's kind of driving its general shape and design aesthetic.
Okay. Is there a limit on the amount of sort of treeness that can be created? Like, is there, the trees are sort of regular. They seem to be at sort of the
Corners of the hexagon.
corners, right?
So there are some structural constraints in terms of
Sure.
how it's actually being built, and those are in essence the structural columns. So that the base structure is designed around those.
I guess my question was more to do with, is it possible to have more tree? Because I think the comments from last time had to do with, I don't think it wasn't said outright, but I think it had more to do with like the ratio of tree to house, and I think the hope from last time was that the design be developed so that it was less, at least the comment was, it was less about the house and more about the trees, almost like, so is there a limit to the number of like branches and trees and the height? Can the height of the trees be changed?
I think that's something we could certainly study.
Okay. Any other follow-up questions?
I had a quick one. Is it your intent that all of these openings, both in the cupola and around the building, are all screened?
Correct. We're looking at the upper cupola, depending on how we work through that stained glass, we might be able to take off the screening at the cupola, but the other openings would be screened.
Yep.
The window openings, there's the main door and entrances
course,
that wouldn't
of
be.
course.
But,
Thank you.
No? No more follow-up? Okay. Are we ready for comments? I think so just as a reminder, they're looking for feedback on their progress and anything like that, so. Go ahead. Mr. Noon?
Sure, I can start. I think, I thought it was good before. I think it's better now. I do think that in the cupola, in the screening, maybe it's safer to have that there. If there's stained glass and a ball can get fouled into that, maybe that's safe. So I think I don't see it taking away from the building, but I think you've done a fine job of developing it even more fun. So I supported it before. I'm still behind you.
Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Whalen?
Sure. First of all, I too think the design has developed appropriately, especially the whimsical nature of the treehouse itself is very successful. It's hard to tell from the images you've showed us, but my reaction is that the ramp tends to dominate the image. I don't think that's your intention, and perhaps in relation to Chair Moore's comment, the ramp could appear to be more tree-like with air roots or as a mangrove, or I know I'm pushing your budget, but it does seem to me as a magical place that, well, frankly, I was inspired by the Disney's family, the Robinson family treehouse, which perhaps all of you were too, and, which is a very naturalistic sort of image. And one comment on the restroom related to Member Anderson's comment, the undulations or the crenellations will gather some moisture and staining at those inflection points on the wall. And then I'm probably being a way too retentive architect, but it does seem to me that the crenellation should align with the doors and anticipate that staining or that water runoff.
On the staining comment, the idea would be, though they're tipped this way and that there would be a slight interior tip as well, so the staining would go to the inside.
Good job. Now, if you could just get them
Oh,
to
the doors,
align with
yeah.
the doors, I'm sure you share that architect's quandary. Those are all my comments. Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Black, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, I would wholeheartedly agree with all those comments. You know, again, I was not at the meeting, I should disclose that, but I looked at the tape, so I'm certainly familiar with all this. But I actually like the last one as well, so, but this is, you know, this could be considered a real improvement as well. The only comment I'd make on just as far as proportions, I mean, if there was just more greenery at the top, just so the proportion of the trunks to the branches and leaves, I think, could just be more aligned, if you will. But I think it's really nice. I couldn't help but look at those windows on that structure and think of Toontown, which I assume that's your intent, but it's very whimsical and magical.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Disneyland is our tabula rasa.
Yes.
Ms. Anderson?
Sure. I think the move of the restroom is appropriate. I think that you could study the parapet detail and maybe provide more of like a traditional rake detail that you would have at a tile roof, just to help with that elevations. And then I think the storybook theme is actually really successful. I do agree with the proportions. I think that the tree house now looks more architectural than it did before, and I think that's just because of the addition of the cupola, and maybe, like they said, the trees could possibly get bigger. I think the whimsical detailing can be pushed further. And I know you're in construction documents, so it comes down to like the railing detail or the little Juliet balcony detail. I think I'm struggling with the cupola and the roof. I think it still appears to be more like a house instead of like a play tree house. So maybe bring some of that storybook quirkiness into the cupola and somehow maybe relate the two so that it just kind of looks disjointed at the moment. And I believe those are my comments.
Okay, thank you. My own comments are that I think it's a very good improvement to what we saw last time. Appreciate the effort that's gone into that, to the treehouse redesign. I feel like, as Board Member Black pointed out, the trees are very similar in kind of volume and size. I think those could be increased, and I think that would only help the cupola. You know, if there was just more volume of greenery and more of the tree in this design, and as well as any opportunities to extend that to some of the other features, like the ramp doesn't need to be, overboard, but I think some moments of that would be really interesting. I think the restrooms are fine. I don't feel you need the extra detail on the crenulation. I think you could get away with just a flat parapet and it would be fine. I think the restroom building doesn't need to, be lavish or, shout. It could just kind of be there and be quiet and be okay. Do they need a motion or is it just comments?
Just comments.
Okay. So we don't need to gather them up. It's just, it is what it is. Okay. So you've heard our comments. Anything else anyone wants to add before we move on? Okay. Very good. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Oh, yes. You know, the thing about the screen trees, it was on the minutes there, so I don't know why we couldn't talk about it.
We're only going to talk about the two items, even though the minutes said one thing.
Whatever you guys have just submitted.
Mr. Russell said it's different.
Make sure. Just because that's whatever you guys watched.
They're coming back. Yeah, this was.
I'll look for those first.
Yes, thank you.
No, that's, yeah.
They're gonna be from a long time ago,
Okay.
before I worked on this.
Okay, so we are on to item number 2. 22 West Mission Street. This is a proposal to permit various as-built alterations to an existing non-residential site, including a change of use to mixed use with 2 residential units occupying the second floor. Project also consists of repaving and restriping the existing parking lot, installation of heaters, permitting the as-built conversion of a garage into a commercial kitchen, office and storage, as-built residential unit floor plan configurations under base density, and the as-built conversion of uncovered parking to commercial storage. A new parking layout is proposed. Structural changes to the existing garage to be converted to a commercial kitchen are also proposed to accommodate the proposed parking layout. Project will abate violations identified in an enforcement case. A parking modification and open yard modification to be reviewed by a staffing hearing officer required, and a waiver to allow reduced landscaping requirements in the parking lot and waste receptacle screening. No final appealable decision will be made at this hearing. Project requires compliance with the project compatibility findings and urban design guidelines. It's a long list. Yeah. Anything from staff before we jump in?
No, I'm just here to answer any questions. And if, when you guys are making your comments, the 2 waivers are ABR waivers, not show waivers. So if there could either be a straw poll or just general comments on if the waivers are supportable, the show would probably like to know that.
Okay. Great. Welcome. If you could introduce yourself.
Hi, Jarrett Gorin from Vanguard Planning, and I'm gonna present this to you. The architect is actually Richard Redmond and did all these drawings, and but since this project is mainly planning issues, you've got a planner today. So I'm going to just start off with this site plan here. This building's on Mission Street. It's a long, narrow lot. It's a commercial building. Goes all the way down the lot, pretty much on a 0 setback over here. This is the parking plan that's actually approved in the city archives. It's doesn't really meet city standards necessarily. This is all paved out here. The only landscape areas on this site are these little areas up here, and there's a little bit back here, but it's pretty much the site's occupied by buildings and paving. And then this was the garage that was previously approved, and then that's like a carport on the previously approved plans. So why did this just shrink? Let me find this one. So this is the as-built site plan where the parking had been modified and they'd converted this garage, and that was done without permits. So we're here to take this thing through and get everything permitted. And then this is the proposed site plan. So we're keeping these open areas here. We're adding some bike racks. We're adding some landscaping in here and a trash enclosure area to comply with the city trash enclosure requirements. This is just a fenced trash enclosure. And this meets some open space requirements for the residential units. which are both upstairs, and then we restriped the whole parking area to comply with transportation maneuvering guidelines. And then this garage, the former garage, is now a commercial kitchen, and then this is enclosed as some commercial storage. And then we have some path of travel improvements we did to get to accessible bathrooms and all that are pretty much within the same walkways on the existing building. Let's see. So there's really not a whole lot of changes to look at on floor plans here. This is what you would care about the most. And the changes are all on the elevation that faces our driveway. So they face to the interior of the site. And pretty much nothing is going on up here on the whole front part of the building. And then in the back, this is the as-built elevation, and we're gonna add a deck out here for open space for that unit. And that's basically it. There's not a whole lot of changes on here. We have all the materials on here if you're interested, but I mean, basically it's wooden decks, wooden railings with iron posts, paint to match the building. Just not a whole lot going on, but that's, you can see here we're gonna change this little bit that's down here where the garage was, from that into this, and then there will be a little roll-up door on this storage here, but that's pretty much it. So I can answer questions, or Stephanie can. Do you have any?
Can you just focus in on those areas where the waivers would apply? That would be helpful.
Oh, sure. So we need a waiver for its parking fingers, right? The landscape fingers in the parking area.
Yeah, so it's the landscape for the parking areas and then the waiver for the screening of the trash enclosure.
Okay, so the parking area, I think there's a requirement for every 5 spaces, you have to have a planter finger or something like that.
Actually, 8 spaces, I believe.
8 spaces.
I think it's just the planted buffer along the property line.
Okay,
Yeah, maybe that's it.
so
Pretty sure.
anyway, this is the existing paved area, and we're restriping it, and we're not changing it, and we can't have the landscape buffer and still have any of these parking spaces be maneuverable. So that's why we need that waiver. And then the screening around this one has to do with the height of it. I think the city standard is we need a 5-foot fence or something, or 6-foot fence. 7-foot fence. Well, we need a fence of some height, and we don't have one. Instead, we have a hedge, which screens the trash enclosure. So we need that waiver.
Okay. Do you have photos of all this?
That was my question.
I thought they just had to cover the height of the containers.
I think it says 7. I'll stand on this one.
All right. Well, anyway, we don't have one. So-
Yeah, there's the adjacent photos.
Okay, great. All right, so that's the view from Mission Street. There's our parking area back there. The landscape waiver area would be somewhere actually behind where this hedge is. So this is the area where the trash would be, that we're not gonna have a fence.
Okay. And it also says an open yard modification.
We don't meet the 15% standard requirement of that lot area, and there's just nowhere to meet it on this site. We don't have site area to do it. That isn't buildings or paving. So this is where the new deck is going to go. That is, I believe it's hard for me to see how far this goes. I think this is just the other part of the building. This was the garage that was converted to commercial space, and that was an open area, and that's going to become commercial storage. And then this is pretty well characterized as the site. And then this is just looking back down the driveway, back towards the street. And this is looking up at the back end of the driveway. This is the current entrance to one of the units upstairs. And then this is inside of that curved area that you were seeing in the parking lot. And that's it.
Okay. Anything else to add?
Nope, that's all.
Okay. We can open public comment for this item.
Yes, thank you, Chair Moore and board members. So first, we'll start with in-person public comment. If anyone wishes to speak on this item, please fill out a speaker slip by the back and bring it to me. But I do have one request to speak here from Ralph Castellanos.
That was for 917.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I misread that. So then I don't have any requests to speak for this item, and I'll move to virtual public comment. So anyone joining by Zoom that wishes to speak on this item, please raise your hand and I will call on you. At this time, I don't see anyone raising their hand, and we did not receive any written correspondence. So with that, I'll turn it over back to you, Chair Moore.
Okay, thank you. And we can go to questions. Ms. Anderson, do you have any questions?
I don't, just to confirm, you're not removing any of the landscape around the trash enclosure or the wall, right? You access from that walkway?
Yeah, it's accessed from in here, and there's a hard surface that we have to put in to meet the trash enclosure requirements, but yeah, it's all
Okay.
still landscaping.
And then are you proposing any new exterior lighting, or is there any that needs to be included?
I'm not aware of that at the concept stage here. I would guess that we'll probably add a light fixture here next to the door to the exterior patio because you have to have one for code.
Okay. Those are my questions.
Okay. Mr. Black, any questions?
Just to confirm Ms. Anderson's question, so the hedge around the trash enclosure, that stays as is, and any and all other hedges and stuff that I see in your photographs all stays, right? All
That's
of it?
right.
Okay, that's all, thanks.
Mr. Noon? Mr. Whalen?
Yes, I have a couple. Mr. Gorin, the commercial storage area at the far left hand, are there any material changes involved with that? That is the covering and the gates, that all remains as existing?
Chair Moore, Board Member Whalen, that's existing. It's not proposed to change.
No changes. And I see on site there is an existing trash storage area with a wooden fence. Is that going away? Is it being replaced by the new one, or is it appears there's a new enclosure built around that?
It's being, gosh, where was it on the previous one?
It's in the same place.
It's going to stay in the same place. We had to make some improvements to it to get a hard surface walkway to it. And then I guess there is let me go to the proposed.
I'm not there where your cursor is. It would be underneath the proposed balcony. It's in the upper portion of your drawing there.
It's
Upper-
being
upper portion.
it's
there.
being relocated to here. This will be all of the trash.
But it looks as if you're proposing a new enclosure. It's in the upper portion of this very drawing, upper. Yes, the detail.
Jared, I believe he's talking
This
about
right
the
here?
bike
Enclosure.
storage.
That's a bike storage.
That's bike storage.
That's long-term
Thank
bike
you.
storage.
And could you talk about the materiality of that bike storage, please? It has a covering.
Yeah, so it's waterproof from this roof here, and this would just be vertical wood, like a wood gate and a wood fence around it.
All right. And then my last question has to do with landscaping. There's a rather mature trumpet vine that encloses all of that. Is that to remain or to be removed?
Where is the picture of that? Or are you?
Yes, you had a good picture of
Yeah,
it.
let's go look at that. Hang on.
Just click back into that PDF thing again. Oh, we'll just open it up again.
Back up.
Are we talking about this back here?
No,
Keep
it
going.
would be,
One more picture, I believe.
there it
That
is.
one. You have another one, too.
And the trunk is right behind the column there. It looks like it's been there for the extent of the building. So the question is that to be removed?
This area right here?
That and the trunk, which is behind the column next to the board slatted enclosure.
I believe that's gonna end up needing to be removed as it's not? Okay. The deck is gonna go up above here, so
Right.
I guess it will need to be trimmed
Trimmed,
in
yeah.
order for that deck to fit. Let's go look at the
right.
deck elevation again.
Okay, those are all of my questions, Chair Moore.
Then,
I don't think so.
if there are no more questions, let's go to comments. Unless Mr. Gordon.
No, I'm all done. I'm just looking at the elevation out of curiosity here. So there's gonna be a deck in that same area. The columns aren't changing, but the deck goes, maybe it's behind them. This will have to be worked out.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay. Well, let's go to comments. Would anyone like to start?
Well, I'll pick up right there. I would heavily lobby for the retention of that trumpet vine, Distictus, as Mr. Black has informed me, as being a particularly valuable landscape item related to the history of the building, and a nod to the green dragon for those of you who remember this complex fondly. The bicycle enclosure doesn't look well integrated. I would like to see that be more a part of the imagery of the building that is stucco and some sort of other disposition than what is proposed. Those are my only two comments. Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else? Mr. Newton?
No additional to that.
Okay. Mr. Black?
Not for me either.
Anderson?
No, I'm in support of the waivers.
Yeah, that'd be helpful if everyone could just chime in if they're in support or not of these waivers that are required. The parking waiver and the reduced, well, that's it really, isn't it? And the waste receptacle screening not being screening.
Yes. I would be in favor of the landscape waiver and the waste receptacle screening.
Okay?
Likewise.
Likewise.
I think that's unanimous. We're all in favor of the screening and the landscape waiver. I don't really have any comments. I mean, I think most of these items are interior to the site, really not going to impact the public at all.
Yeah.
So, I mean, unfortunately, we can't make an appealable decision, but we can make a motion to continue to the staff hearing officer. Okay, so I will do that with positive comments from the board and support for those for the waiver.
Chair Moore, did you guys have any thoughts about the open yard modification? Essentially, they just don't have enough private and common open yard space on the lot.
I think I'm in support of that waiver as well, just due to the existing condition and the urban and location in an urban environment.
A question to that point, how might a waiver to the open space area affect the plan as proposed? Would it negate the need for the balcony and the removal of the trumpet vine?
Board Member Whalen, no, the deck is actually how staff is supporting the open yard modification. Even with the deck, they're still not meeting the open yard requirement. If we can go to the site plan. But overall, staff is supportive of the open yard modifications because they are proposing the deck and that small alcove near the trash enclosure. And functionally, the front of the lot also functions as open yard, but it doesn't meet dimensions and it doesn't meet specific requirements about being private from commercial space. And so we need the deck to be supportive because that's the only way we get private space for both units.
Okay.
So just add a comment. I think when they come back at some point, they need to confirm that that vine can either stay or not stay after you sort of examine it in more detail.
Yeah, when we're back here for project design approval, we'll have a very specific plan for what's going to happen with that vine and how we can keep it, hopefully.
Thank you.
Okay. Very good.
So that was my motion.
So the motion, just to clarify, was just for approval or continuance to show today? No other comments?
I think, well, my comments were that the board is supportive of the project and supportive of the waivers requested, the open yard.
And that's actually a good idea, too. Would you be interested in sending this back to consent?
I think so.
Is that something that the
I
board
think it
would
could be
entertain?
agendized for consent on, in the future.
Okay. Cool.
I need a second for that motion.
I'll second that.
Okay. Anything to add? No? Okay. Let's take our vote.
All right, I'll start with Chair Moore,
Yes.
Board Member Anderson,
Yes.
Board Member Block,
Yes.
Board Member Noon,
Yes.
and Board Member Whalen.
Yes.
Okay, motion passes.
Thank
Okay,
you.
Thanks. Now we're ahead.
We are quite ahead. Maybe we can take a recess until 4:20-ish. That would give me enough time to email the applicant, and then that gives us about a 5-minute buffer. We technically could start at 4:15, but
Okay.
I don't know.
Let's adjourn until 4:20.
4:20, okay.
All right, we're moving on to item 3 at this point. This is a new item here for project design approval. It's 917 East Yananali Street. This is a proposal for 2 apartments over a 4-space carport, new permeable pavers for driveways and walkways, 3 new long-term bike parking spaces, and a new trash enclosure. The proposal includes converting the existing 2-bedroom single-family residence to a 3-bedroom residence. The proposal also includes to abate violations in an enforcement case. Project design approval is requested and requires compliance with the project compatibility analysis guidelines. Okay, welcome. If you could introduce yourselves and take us through your proposal, please.
Yeah, good afternoon. I'm Rachel Raynor with RRM Design Group.
Hi, and I'm Bobby Walker with Bobby Walker Design.
Just wanted to clarify 2 points on the scope of work, and then I'll turn it over to Bobby. The conversion of the 2-bedroom single-family home to a 3-bedroom single-family home is under a separate BLD case and not part of this project and review today. And then the abatement violations has to do with the parking on site. There were previously 2 covered parking spaces dedicated to the existing single-family residence that were removed at some point. And so the new 4-space covered carport, 2 of those spaces will be dedicated to the existing single-family residence on the property. With that, Bobby?
Yeah, thank you, Rachel. Let's run through the package here page by page. Just want to start out, I'm sure you guys have all taken a look at it, but just want to let you know kind of the 4 main goals that were in mind as you look at the design today. So One was to maximize the rear open yard space. The second was to reduce the amount of driveway needed on site and paving. The third was to conform to the solar access requirements. And the fourth was to create privacy and kind of separate spaces for each of the units, even though they're fairly tight on the site together. This is the existing house Rachel was just talking about. This is not part of this scope, so this currently being remodeled, and the front yard is being improved kind of as we speak over the next couple weeks. That driveway you see in the top center picture is really kind of the only part of the front yard that's applicable to this project. That's the driveway we're using, keeping the current one for this project. And then the existing, or the proposed building is about 70 feet back from the front setback. So there's a lot of parking dimensions on this. We worked pretty closely with transportation back and forth. So the backup depth and the width of the building are kind of, they are, well, not kind of, they are to the inch of what was requested by transportation. Same with the stairs and the posts. So that's all been worked out with their diagrams. And you'll notice on the next page we'll have even striping that's required to make sure those parking spaces work correctly. On the north side of this building, we have the new trash and the new bicycle enclosure. Oh, yeah. So we have the new trash, recycling, green waste here, and then kind of custom-built bicycle lockable storage. And then here we have that private open yard for the maintaining it for that front residence. So there's a shared entry to each unit, and the thought for this was it reduces circulation, allows us to kind of maximize private space for each one. So they each get kind of a nice deck up here on the second story, which will get some nice light. And then the footprint of the building, as kind of mentioned, was really constructed based on transportation's requirements. So we're extending some overhangs and a couple cantilevers to allow for a little more bedroom space. But otherwise, that's really how we got set here. We can't move east or west at all. I'm just going to go straight to the elevations because the elevations really explain and dictate the roof plan here. So here we have the open carports below, the living space above. All the materials are intended, well, the second story materials that would potentially be visible from the street, from the neighboring yards, and I guess from the Trader Joe's behind, would be to match the existing front house. So as you can see, the materials and colors, we're going to do similar trim and fascia board to what's existing now, same color. The front house has wood windows, but we're going to do new vinyl windows for energy requirements, and we're going to match the roof and the color scheme. This form is, a lot of it's, as you can see, derived from the solar access limitation here. So it was struggling with this really tight constraint that transportation gave us. And then being able to do the 4 spaces, since, as Rachel mentioned, we had 2 previous spaces that existed before my clients bought the house. So we're unaware of them, but we had to provide them back. So we were trying to fit 4 spaces on the site for these 2 units. Although these 2 units require only 2 spaces themselves. On the north side here there'll be that kind of custom-built matching material bike shelter, so it will kind of just blend into the elevations. I think the sections here, just the main relevant thing is it's pretty low at the entry. You kind of have that 7-foot head height, and that's because of that solar access requirement and the way access really by the inch worked out with transportation. And then as you get into the living area and kitchen, it rises up, and we're going to use that head height to, or I should say, attic space to provide additional storage for the units since they're smaller one-bedroom units. There'll be a drop-down panel, and you'll be able to access the space above the bedrooms and the kitchen just for like seasonal storage. And that's what I have for you guys today. Thank you.
Okay, let's open public comment.
Yes, thank you, Chair Moore and board members. So at this time, I'll go ahead and start with in-person public comment. So I do have one request to speak here from Ralph Castellanos. If you'd like to come up to this podium here, you'll have 2 minutes to speak.
Hi, good afternoon. I'm Ralph Castellanos. I live at 921 East Yananali, right next door. I just want to know where your new building is going to be. I saw it there on the plans, but I couldn't see exactly where it's going to be in reference to the property.
So unfortunately, we can't have sort of a back and forth. If you have questions that you'd like us to ask the applicant, go ahead and raise those, and we can do that.
If I could see the plans where that new building is going to be, I would appreciate. That's basically yeah.
And you're more than welcome to like any other comments or.
Not really. I'm for it. I just want to know exactly where it's going to be.
Okay. Well, we can have the board and the
I
applicant.
saw it there, but I think it was right behind the house, and then how it's going to take up all the property.
We'll have the applicant team show you.
Yeah, okay.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else?
Thank you, Chair Moore. At this time, I don't have any more requests to speak, so I'll move to Zoom public comment. So if anyone joining by Zoom would like to speak on this item, please raise your hand to indicate that you'd like to speak, and I will call on you. All right, I don't see any hands raised, and we didn't receive any written correspondence, so I'll turn it over back to you, Chair Moore.
Okay, thank you. Well, let's jump to your site plan really quickly, and so we can dial in the neighboring houses relative to what you're proposing.
Yeah, so it's not you can see this hatch mark area here, and then these two on the west side, those are the neighboring houses.
Okay. Could you flip to your aerial photo? too?
And here are the four corners of the footprint of the building.
Click back to that blueprints, appreciate it.
And sir, I can show you how to find these plans online too if you want to look at them at a later date. So
Yeah, here's building, here's that corner.
Okay.
thank you for showing that.
Okay. Well, let's jump into questions then. Mr. Whalen, do you have any questions?
I appreciate Mr. Castellanos' question because that was one of mine too. Two other questions. Mr. Walker, what is the first floor exterior finish? It looks from the elevations that it's some sort of different material. I didn't see it identified.
Yeah, it's a plaster material, painted dark gray.
All right, thank you. And could you talk about, I think if you could go to image number 8 of 9. What was your decision? Let's see. Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry, that's the wrong one. Could you go to the, any of those elevations, fine. On the first floor, you've used a hip, and on the second floor, there's a gable. Could you talk about your decision to use those two different types?
I think on the first floor, the intent at the time was just to reduce the amount of massing on that first floor level. I guess I don't have a better answer than that
All
at the
right.
moment, but that's a good kind of thing to point out there.
All right.
Thank you.
Those are my only questions. Share more.
Okay, Mr. Noon?
Just a quick question. Go to the long elevations. I don't know if it's up or down on the set. Just the top one, elevation one, just wondering why the sliders versus a double hung?
I guess in reference to the existing house and matching the intent of the existing house?
They have sliders?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, no, sorry, they have, I think they mostly do have single hungs.
Yeah, I thought they were
That's a good-
like the smaller ones.
Yeah, that's a good suggestion. There's no reason actually those windows couldn't be swapped out to match. I think that's a great point.
That's my question.
Okay. Mr. Black?
No other questions?
Okay. Ms. Anderson?
What kind of railing are you proposing?
I think the intent, since they're second floor decks and just for durability, to do steel railing up there.
Steel, okay.
Probably do some sort of top rail just on top, out of wood, just to soften it a little bit.
Okay, that's my question.
Okay. Could you go to the floor plan, or the ground floor plan, I guess?
Yes. Excuse me.
And then so in the garages, so you've got, so cantilevers out, second floor cantilevers out over that area,
Oh, here, yes.
and also on the wings, I guess you would call it.
Yeah, so
too.
these have posts
Okay.
on the decks, so there's actually no cantilever on the decks, and then there's a cantilever here on the second story.
Got it.
And then here are the posts.
Why, is there some requirement to use the columns on the, instead of extending that wall down there? Yeah.
No, I don't think there is, because when we work with transportation, it's not area that's usable for the car anyway,
can't
so
drive
I
in
think it would
there.
be more just trying to reduce the amount of wall here.
I see. Okay. And are those like 6x6 columns?
Yeah, they are right now. We haven't, the structural team hasn't defined those yet.
Okay. They seem pretty slender.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And then if you could go to one of the side elevations. Yeah. Does your proposed roof slope, does that match the existing house?
No, it does not.
Okay. Is the existing house less steep?
Yeah,
or-
it's less steep. So the idea was, since we're really pinched with the solar limitation here, is just rising the slope quickly to allow kind of that entry space where it's minimal and there's a closet at 7 feet to be, the lowest space, so it gets comfortable really quickly.
Okay. Okay, and then we covered that there's stucco on the base, siding on the top. Does the existing house have that kind of shake detail in the eaves, or that?
Go back to the photos here. No, it does not. It has just siding and then has shutter and faux windows on it.
Vent. Okay. Okay, any other questions? Okay, let's go to comments. Now looks like they could get project design approval today if we feel it's ready, but let's hear from everybody. Mr. Whalen?
Well, I personally don't think it's ready for project design approval. The character portrayed by the proposal does not match the existing building in its sort of bungaloid fashion, if you will. Member Anderson pointed out the railings. They seem out of character with a bungalow. Chair Moore pointed out the end elevations, which seem curiously just disjointed to me. And I know it's a torturous way of meeting the transportation guidelines, but it doesn't look like it should stand up, but for one thing. The bicycle storage seems tacked on and should be more integrated into the final design, whereas right now it looks like it was an afterthought. Perhaps the balcony could be expanded to perfectly dimensionize what you need for bicycle coverage. It also seems to me that some natural light into the stairwell should be something that you consider. It looks like rather a dark, echoey entrance up to the front doors that could be relieved by, I don't know, a skylight or some other method of allowing some light and air in there. And then the very small windows at the living room, which were, Member Noon pointed out, which seemed to me inadequate for a living space. As a result, I just don't see this as a fully fleshed project ready for design approval. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Noon, do you have any comments?
Well, we've mentioned the windows. I think that would be one comment that I would add, and would also agree with the detail of the gable end, the disconnect between the existing unit and the proposed.
Okay, Mr. Black?
Nothing to add.
Okay, Ms. Anderson?
I would only add that I think it's in the right location on the site with where the neighbors sit, but I do agree with the comments that have been made as far as having a cohesive, multiple units on one site. So.
Okay. Could you turn to the elevation sheets, please? Yeah. I mean, I know from experience how difficult it is to try and work parking and maneuvering and all of that into these projects, so I can appreciate how, I believe Mr. Whalen mentioned it was tortured in a way. I can appreciate that, and it's difficult to shoehorn these projects in to these sites. But I think if you took another look at this, and some of these suggestions I think are good, to try and integrate this deck with the bike parking and kind of make it into more of a whole instead of these disjointed pieces, I think that would be helpful. And I think the change of material from your base, your stucco base, to the siding, I think is emphasizing the disjointedness instead of like giving you the break in materials that I think you were looking for. So I would recommend, more of a homogeneous material palette for this building, and then infilling those areas between the posts under or at the garage, and I think that would help kind of ground that building visually a little bit more. And then I was just kind of thinking about it as well, that maybe there's a way to, rather than just this one long sloped roof that's coming from the property line and then sloping dramatically up to the ridge, maybe study that you have a shed roof form that has a lower slope adjacent to the property line, and then maybe there's a break where you can get back to more of a regular roof shape or something like that would tie the two houses together a little bit more. And then I think landscape obviously would be interesting to see the next time around.
Yeah.
I don't know if you had a landscape concept in this plan set yet? I didn't see one.
No, there's not one in this
Okay.
concept yet.
So I think that's important for PDA, is that we feel comfortable with what that proposal is. Any other comments? No? Someone like to make a motion?
Well, I'll make a motion that the project return to the board indefinitely, if need be, and to address the following items, that it have a cohesive bungalow expression as reflected in the existing structure. That would include the roof resolved. It's either a gable versus a hip, or the elimination of the hip. That the railings more closely reflect a bungalow design. The bike parking be integrated with the overall design. The change in material from the first to the second floor be emphasized, and Chair Moore can help define that if I didn't get it right. And that the large roof form expressed be broken up by some means. You'll have to help me with that one, Chair Moore. And that the project return with a landscape design concept. Can you help me out with any of those, Chair Moore?
I'll second that. And then under discussion, so let's read that back, if we could. Thank you.
Yes, so the motion was to continue indefinitely with the following comments. Number 1, provide a cohesive bungalow expression as reflected in the existing structure. Number 2, so the roof should be resolved to either be a gable or hip. Number 3, the railing should more closely reflect the bungalow design. Number 4, the bike parking should be integrated with the overall design. Number 5, the change in material from first to second floor should be emphasized.
So let's stop there. So my point was that the materiality should be more simplified and similar throughout the design, not different from the ground floor to the.
I prefer that, so
Okay.
I would agree to that change.
Okay, so let's say the exterior materials shall be simplified and
Consistent.
consistent throughout the project.
All right, thank you. So then next I have number 6, the large roof form expressed should be broken up by some means. And number 7, the project shall return with a landscape design concept.
You want to refine that roof form?
No, I think
That expresses it fine. I accept those changes.
give them room to
Yes.
work. Okay, that's it. Anything else?
I would add, maybe it's unnecessary because the applicant seems to agree with the window comment. Do we want to include that?
I would agree to a change that the windows all be consistently expressed
Correct.
as either sliders or double hung.
Well, my comment was that they are more in line with the existing, which are single hung.
Yes, that the windows are more consistently in character with the existing building. Did I say that right?
Much better than me.
Okay. I would agree to that change.
Okay, great. Is that everything?
Is it this project you talked about, a skylight over the stair, entry stair?
Well,
Or light?
I suggested that the entryway up the stair is rather dark and forbidding, and that perhaps somehow breaking up the roof line, he could introduce a skylight or some kind of trellis opening that might serve both purposes.
Okay. Let's take our vote, please.
All right, we have Chair Moore,
Yes.
Board Member Anderson,
Yes.
Board Member Black,
Yes.
Board Member Noon,
Yes.
and Board Member Whalen.
Yes.
Okay, motion passes.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. And with that, I believe we can close our meeting.
Oh, yeah, yes. As always. We have an item 4,
Oh, we do have
however.
number 4, sorry.
We
I
are
was
early.
ready to go home.
He's ready to go home. So the earliest we could hear that item, it would be 4:55 PM.
Okay, well, let's
So-
adjourn until then.
Yes. Wonderful.
Reconvene our meeting and move on to item number 4. Please, come on down. This is 1411 San Pasquale, and this is a proposal for a 2-story building with a 4-car garage on the first floor and 2-bedroom accessory dwelling unit on the second floor. Existing duplex will remain. Proposal includes a replacement of a rear retaining wall. Project designer approval is requested. Project requires compliance with the project compatibility analysis and the guidelines, urban design guidelines. Project was last reviewed on November 28th of last year. Welcome back.
Thank you.
We have our motion up from last time around. Oh, sorry. Is that it? Okay. Okay, and you're here, project design approval is requested, so let's have that in mind. And why don't you introduce yourself and take us through your changes?
Yeah, Brian Pollard, architect. Good to be back.
Do
And,
you mind turning on your mic and just scooting a little closer to you?
Sure.
The thing will turn green.
Yeah. It is green. Oh, brighter green. That's okay. Yeah, Brian Pollard, architect. Was here last time, a couple of months ago. Everybody might be familiar with this, but I guess I should go through quickly.
I would just focus on the motion and try and go like point by point through that so we can kind of just stay on task.
I actually don't have a list of that motions in front of me, but.
Okay, can we flip back over to that?
Yeah, please.
So in general, so trash enclosure location was a question mark. Paving materials versus asphalt for access. Some sort of architectural treatment for the overhang.
Right, okay. Okay,
There was any landscape the last time, did you have some?
I did not, but there is landscape on
Yeah,
this
I've-
set here, so
I've seen it.
we were looking for, I think, David, we were looking for a basic landscape plan, so generated that. So, yeah, so I think starting with site plan, I think the architecture, we recognize what's around the architecture, around the neighborhood. It's very similar, lots of apartments. So let's get to the site plan. There's a site plan here. Yeah, we had the trash, there was no trash, so basically you can see over here, here's the trash cans, basically the large roller type trash cans. They're located there so that they can move them out to the sidewalk during the trash day. So I was able to work that out with the circulation. We basically had that overhang. This is the overhang of like a 4.5 foot. You can see the dash line over the garage. So we can get down to the elevations on that. There was a suggestion because of it was stucco, basically not showing any kind of a beam tail. So as you can see around here, they've kind of indicated some 6 by 10s, which I think it has the mass to be able to kind of, and to locate them in the locations I have, it kind of gives it a little bit more, structural appearance of handling the overhang there. So the architecture is, matching the existing duplex in front, as you can see there. So, and then I think is there anything else on that list other than the landscape?
Let's go back and forth really quick.
Excuse me.
And so then the landscape, there's a landscape plan here that we can, David, everybody, we can go over. But basically, I'm going to zoom in here a little bit so I can read it. But I've got all the species names. Basically, you've got, we spoke about kind of some vines along this side, which are these are the two vines that I've selected here, 1 and 2. You can see, you can look at the legend here, but basically those are the two vines as in photos. So it's coming along here with the one vine, which is a passion flower, which is number 1 along here, and which is that purple flower. And then stronger. The lavender star flower, which is this one here, is along the back side of this thing. So along that back fence. So that this retaining wall is basically retaining about 9 feet. And then there's a 6-foot wall above that retaining wall, 6-foot fence. So that you can kind of see where this is terracing down. So this drops down, and there's a little terrace here of a retaining wall of 4 feet, and then drops down another 4 feet right along here. And then the steps will take you to the top area where you access the ADU, which is on the 2nd floor. So the last time, I think there was some great comments about the idea of like it was unique in which we were able to enter the ADU from that patio in the back, just so you know. So that becomes a very private area, so you can see some of the landscaping. And I've just called out some things that I think, David, you can just kind of respond to instead of me kind of going through it and see if it's kind of going in the right direction. And then I've got basically some walk lights that are indicated by this symbol here. And you can see the image that is over in this right-hand corner. So basically, it's just lighting up the walkway for the path of travel for, the tenants for the ADU. You can see is that little gate area, and then we can just walk along and work your way over to the entrance entry patio over here to the back side of the property. And then just picked up some landscaping in front of the existing garden, a garden wall here that already exists. So it's just going to soften that up a little bit, and then brought it along around the front where there's no landscaping here. And then as far as pavers and stuff, we can get down into the civil plan here. This is stormwater. So basically the existing asphalt is in this area right here. And then we've got pavers that pretty much fill up this whole area at this point. Fills it up. So those are interlocking pavers. And I think that's pretty much, see if there's something else that I'm missing. Any kind of questions you might have?
Okay. I think there was one more point on the motion, something about the laundry.
Oh, right. Yeah, the laundry,
There should be more study of the laundry area and the in-between building pathways to that unit.
yeah, let me get to the site plan here. So this laundry room was, it is existing, and they do have, basically that opening is, they've got 4 or 3 different units or washers and dryers that can go into this area. And so I think those doors being wider so that you can access the additional washer and dryer that's in that space. So that's how I've kind of responded to the laundry area. So it does accommodate the ADU. I mean, the ADU has a washer and dryer in it. So this is the existing unit's washer and dryer location.
Okay. All right, I think if that's everything, okay. Okay, let's open public comment.
Yes, thank you, Chair Moore and board members. I'll start with in-person public comment. At this time, I haven't received any requests to speak, so I'll move to virtual public comment. If anyone joining by Zoom wishes to speak on this item, please raise your hand and I will call on you. At this time, I don't see anyone joining by Zoom that wishes to speak, and we didn't receive any written correspondence, so I'll turn it over back to you.
Okay, we can close public comment and go to questions. Ms. Anderson, do you have any questions?
Sure. Were you able to have a photo from the ADU patio or something? I think there was a question about providing a photo from that area, looking at the wall, the retaining wall.
No, I don't have another, but I think what I could do is give you a
Pulled up, if you would like to look at Google Earth, it might be helpful, but I-
If you go back down, number 4, back up.
Here we go. Yeah, right here, this would be good, yeah.
Okay.
So this is all paving over here on the side of where this ADU is, where my hand is. So that's going to be the wall along that side property line. And so this back area is kind of the patio of that.
So that's, you're on your neighbor's parcel there and then looking over the fence, or are you on
Or
this
Or
parcel?
on this side, or on this side.
Oh, okay.
So this is the,
You're in your neighbor's driveway, essentially.
here we
That's
go.
the photo.
Let's
I
do
see.
this. So this is, here's the site. So this, the
Got it.
the paved area and the retaining wall that you're looking at is over here on this side. That's, you can see that number 4 orientation. So that kind of gives you an idea. So it's not looking down at any other building next to it. It's just looking down into a parking lot. That whole side of that ADU.
Okay.
Does that?
I think I get it. Can we go back to the site plan? Was there any study of locating the trash outside of that walkway? Did you study looking in that like west corner or any other locations?
I looked a little bit at that. I think that they were kind of just wanting a little bit more landscaping over there, and it just seemed like this was a good space for it. It does seem like a lot of those swing doors, it just was showing that it was working to be able to get the trash in there, but once it's closed up, it circulates nicely, so.
Okay. All right, those are my questions.
Okay. Mr. Black, any questions?
I have comments, but no questions right now.
Okay, Mr. Noon?
No questions.
Mr. Whalen?
I didn't think I had any until the first question came out. Could you go back to your photographs, Mr. Pollard? I got a little bit confused there. Numbers, what was it, 3 and 4? Now, and photo number 3, it says we're looking south. I would think that we're looking west, are we not?
On number 3?
We're looking down the driveway. And 3 and 4 look identical to me.
One's a little further back, and then you're stepping forward.
Yes,
So
but we're looking west, are we not, at the western adjacent parcel?
northwest.
I know it isn't strictly north-south, it's our conundrum of Santa Barbara.
Yeah, I know.
But we're
Right.
looking at the rear lot line.
Southwest, yeah, it's southwest.
Well, okay, we're looking at the rear lot line. Yeah.
Right. We're looking-
And
this is the
so my
rear.
question is, and I do have one, is that the fence on top of the wall that we see in the photograph, is that the neighbor's fence?
That's correct.
So your project proposal does not include a fence on top of that retaining wall?
Not on top of the neighbor's retaining wall, but on top
Oh,
of our
that's the
property.
neighbor's retaining wall.
This is the neighbor's
That's the neighbor. So-
retaining wall. We're doing basically the same thing on the property too.
So you're
side.
duplicating a retaining wall on top of that. Well, that ought to keep things in
Yeah.
place. Okay, that clarifies it for me. My question was visual intrusion from the entry plaza, your entry plaza to the units from the neighbors. But I don't see a conflict now. Thank you.
Okay, great.
Okay. Any other questions before we go to comments?
Okay, quick question. Are you intending to replace this one fence along the driveway?
Yes,
Okay.
that's new fence.
It will be a new
Indicated.
fence?
Yeah.
Okay, good, thanks.
Yep.
Okay, let's go to comments. Who would like to start? He's here for project design approval.
I can start. I think the response to the 6-foot overhang is acceptable. The landscape, it looks like you've maxed out the amount of space that you have for landscape. The pavement delineation made sense. I kind of struggle with the location of the trash. I think the door swings are throwing me off. It doesn't seem like it could actually function with the laundry and the trash there, but maybe I'm wrong. So my only comment would be look at another location for the trash enclosure.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Black, any comments?
Yeah. Just looking at the planting plan, it just strikes me as a little thin. And I couldn't help but notice too that you've got some photographs of plants that are mislabeled. Like the third one over, that's not an agave as it's listed. And the next one over, that's not a yucca, that's a phormium. And then I'm seeing that you're showing that along the sidewalk, and either one of those plants, yucca or phormium, would, although you indicated that there's existing plant material in that little strip along the sidewalk?
They just wanted that more landscape. That was my comment to it. No, it's all new.
Okay, so
There's a little bit.
are you planning on keeping what's there or just replacing with what you're proposing here?
Yeah, it's pretty much just kind of grassy, it's just a landscape area.
Okay. So my general comment is, I think you could probably benefit from just, I hate to ask this question, is this a plan you did, or did you have a?
Yeah, I did this.
Okay,
It seemed like we were just looking for a little landscaping from,
yeah.
that was requested last time.
Just from my perspective as a landscape architect, I just think that there could be a better job done here with just a little bit more variety. And then as I'm seeing the plants, they look like they're sort of mislabeled. And so I'm just concerned that what you're showing here is just either the plants that I know are labeled here are going to be too big for the spaces, or maybe there's not enough light for them, just little things like that. But I just think you could have a little bit more variety, if you will. And then also, I noticed this tree, the Hymenosperm, is that the one tree that I'm seeing here in the back? Because it's not labeled as such, but.
Yeah, it's the 8 right over here where that
Is there an
arrow.
8 there? Oh, I see, you're labeling the canopy
And
there.
there's the
Got
8.
it, I get it. Okay, that's fine. Yeah, so that's sort of my general reaction to it. I think if you just sort of flesh out your palette, if you will, I think you would benefit from it. Does that make any sense?
Yeah, you don't like my plan. No.
Well, just.
That's all right. No, I get
You
it.
know, no disrespect, but when
Yeah,
I
no,
looked
I
at it, I
understand.
thought, architect did this.
Yeah, okay.
So
Yeah, it was. It was
some,
definitely an architect.
some do it better than others.
I was looking through and trying to find a palette that the owner and I were
excuse me,
kind of working
but-
at. But,
Anyway,
right.
Sorry, but you just want to relook at it.
Okay.
That's all. Those are my only comments.
Thanks,
Thanks.
David.
Mr. Noon, any comments?
Yes, I think the responses to the comments are appropriate and acceptable. I think that the trash, I think, although I understand the congestion, the apparent appearance of congestion, I think it's better here than anywhere else. So I would lean towards leaving it where you have it.
Okay, Mr. Whalen?
Yes, I think the responses have been appropriate, and I especially support Mr. Black's comments. And then on a personal note, I find my presence on the board to review projects like this take me to neighborhoods I would never have visited. So I want to thank you for that experience.
All right. Yeah, I don't have anything to add, other than I think it's developed the way we asked. And I would defer to Board Member Black's comments on the landscaping as an architect. Would somebody like to craft a motion?
I've got all the final
I can craft a motion.
Great.
information.
So this would be, the board finds this as presented, ready for project design approval, with the following comments. That the applicant come back with a revised landscape plan to clarify the plant legend and what's called out. And that the board supports the direction or the responses from the previous comments and the direction of the project. Anything else? That's enough for me.
Would you be okay with it coming back for final on consent?
Yes.
Okay, great. So continue to the final consent. Do we have a seconder of the motion?
I'll second.
Mr. Black beat you to it. Anything to add? Any discussion? No? Okay, then let's
I'll
take
add
our
the-
vote.
I'll add the findings.
Oh, the findings, yes.
So the board finds the project consistent with the design guidelines. The board finds it compatible with the architectural character of the neighborhood. It is appropriate in size, mass, bulk, height, and scale. There are no adjacent landmarks to conflict with. It does not affect public views of oceans and mountains, and it is appropriate use of landscape.
Okay. Let's take our vote.
All right, I'll start with Chair Moore,
Yes.
Board Member Anderson,
Yes.
Board Member Black.
Yes.
Board Member Noon.
Yes.
And Board Member Whalen.
Yes.
Okay, motion passes.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
And then I just want to announce that there is a 10-day appeal period for project design approval, and those instructions are up on screen.
Okay, great.
All right.
Thank you.
And with that, we can adjourn our meeting for the day. Thank you very much.